All right, this was about a prison story mixed in with let you know what's up to give you an update on the George Floyd situation and the man that was charged with his unfortunate demise. Sit back, enjoy the ride. I'm gonna teach y'all a new word today, so pay attention, stick through it to the end. It's called free pick. If anybody know what free pick is, put it in the comment. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video. All right, let's get it poppin'. All right, you know what it is. Unique Mecca Audio, man. I'm here. I'm going to give y'all an update on the George Floyd, situation. As you see, this was me at George Floyd's memorial all the way, in Minnesota where he was at. My daughter was working there at the time, so I went out there to go visit my daughter, and I had to go by there so I could see what was going on. Make sure you watch this video. This video is on my channel. Just put in Unique Mecca Audio, George Floyd, and you'll see this video so you can see how they set up the memorial and the shrine for him and how everything went down. Okay, now Derek Chauvin was charged with the death of George Floyd, who died on May 25th, 2020. Derek Chauvin was 47 years old. He was sentenced to 21 years in the feds and 22 and a half years in the state. Now, he was serving his sentence in the state. Let me explain how that go. He had two charges. He had a federal charge and a state charge. See, I give y'all jewels. I'm going to break this down so you understand. He had two charges in two different jurisdictions, is what they call it. Jurisdictions is, domain. So in the state, he got one sentence. In the feds, he got another. So if the federal judge didn't run the sentence concurrent with the state charge, or the state judge didn't run the sentence concurrent with the federal charge, that means they run in what they call consecutive. But in the federal system, in the hood, we call it bow-legged. Running the sentence bow-legged, meaning you got to do one, then serve the other. The two don't count together. So instead of him just having 22 and a half years maximum, he got 43 and a half years if it was ran consecutive. But now, when you're in the state, they don't give you time served. They don't give you time served in the feds for what you do in the state. But if you're in the state serving your sentence, the feds serving your sentence, then they give you time served, for the state if you're in the federal jurisdiction serving your time, because that's the big boy. Do y'all understand that? All right. So now you got that. So he was serving his time in the state in a high security prison because of, his profile, high profile of the case. They had him in 23 and, one lockup. That's 23 hours in the cell, 1 hour a day to come out, 5 days a week. So that comes up to 5 hours a rec. I remember when I first got in the system, there was brothers that fought for that, because they used to lock us down and put us in the SHU, that special housing unit, another word for the hole, the box, solitary confinement. So they put us in there, and they was too lazy to take us out the rec, because they had to take us out one at a time. Then they had to look to see who was gang affiliated, who had a beef with who was a victim of what, who was, the aggressor for what, to know how to keep all the inmates separate. So they didn't want to do that, what they call extra work. So they took away our rec. So dudes filed to the court. Yes, we filed to the court so that we could let the judge know that they depriving of our 1 hour a day rec, and we won the lawsuit. So they allowed us, where in any jail we in, we got to get 5 hours, a rec, a week, that's 20 hours for the month, with a 4-week span. So that's how that went. Now, we don't want that, and we moving. So he wanted to get out of the state because he was in a high security prison, and they had him locked in 23 and 1, as we call it. So now he files to the court to say that he wanted to go to the feds because his time was dead in the state for the feds, meaning whatever he did in the state, like I said a minute ago, it didn't count in the feds. So he wanted to get to the feds so that the time would count for the state that he do in the feds. You understand? So if he did 20 years in the feds, they normally would try and count that together, but don't let that fool you. That's also bull crap. You know what I mean? Bull crap. If the judge don't run them what they call concurrent, that mean together, that mean marriage of the two sentences is the terminologies that we use in prison. If the judge don't say that, the feds ain't playing that either. So whoever tell you that, that's on some bull crap. Because if they just say 22 and a half years in the state and they let you go and then you go to the feds and get 21 years, then when you go to the feds, they tell you got 43 and a half years and you're like, no, but the judge only gave me, 22 and a half over there and 21 here. So the two of them should run concurrent. And I'm in the feds serving the time, so the state time should count. They'll tell you, no, we're not doing that, So that's how that worked. So now he petitioned to go there, for that and to get out of, solitary confinement 23-1 in the high security prison. So they sent him over there to the joint. Now, this is Thanksgiving weekend. Remember, I just gave you the Thanksgiving special right before this even happened, and this falls right in place. That's why I'm doing this video. Remember, I told you that we might have beef with somebody. Like the story I told about Thanksgiving, look at it. It was the last video. I explained that, two dudes was beefing over a ticket. Dude tried to cheat on the ticket and get paid, and dude didn't want to pay him, and they ready to go to war for it and stab him. We got involved and said, look, we got visitors flew in from as far as New York. We all the way out here in Atwater, California. Please don't screw up the visit, Victorville, all that. We out west, so we tell them don't screw up the visit for Thanksgiving. Plus, let us get our turkey. And like I said, in like 2019, they gave us whole pheasants. I can't tell you what it felt like to get a pheasant after getting, they used to give us this little chicken leg that looked like a pigeon chicken leg. And that was our meal for Thursday, out there in Victorville, So they serve us that. So we tell the man, fall back, don't do nothing. Let's let this thing play out so we can get our visit, get our meal, and whatever y'all want to do it day after Thanksgiving is green light, you do what you got to do. So they said that the person that, that wet up, that's what we call it, wet up. When you hit somebody up, we call it wet up, whether it's with a bang, 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 oh, let's get the gunshots. Whether it's with the, the gunshots, or it's with the Bethlehem, the shank, the whatever, whatever that is. Once you get, wet up, that's what it is. So the next day, the dude that wet him up, right? They said he was targeting him. So that means that the institution, the other convicts, and some inmates that I'm sure, ran to the administration, to tell them that they was going to hit Derek Chauvin, so you need to do something because we don't want to get locked down. It's Thanksgiving holiday and all that. But sometimes you got to sacrifice something. You know what I mean? If a man feels that he's right and it's something that he wants to do within his heart, you can't stop him. So that's what that is. So, we put it on pause on Thanksgiving or like Christmas, major holidays, so we could have that date, and the next day it's whatever, we back to prison, we get locked down, whatever, either way the time count, or, it don't count if you're doing life plus 20 like I was doing. So now, while this is happening, remember, Chauvin is the one that held his knee on George Floyd's neck for 9 minutes while that man's last words out of George Floyd's mouth was, "I can't breathe." And the man held him down. And if you notice, what really irked me about it, I didn't even want to show the picture, but what irked me about it is, I know y'all all seen the picture, is when the man not only had his knee on his neck, that's one thing, but when he had both of his hands in his pocket, like, I'm not even going to touch this filthy animal. It reminds me of when I got shot up 4 times and had to jump off the 6-story building, and the police ran over to check on me and, and then said, oh man, this is sad to even reminisce on this. But, the police went to check on me, and then he ran in the building to go do what he had to do, and I guess I wasn't worth it enough, But he had his foot on his neck for 9 minutes. But when he had his hands in his pocket, and he was looking serious, like, oh, like he was just disgusted. He didn't even want to touch him with his body, so he just touched him with his knee and held it in his neck. Imagine somebody pushing down on your neck with all their weight, where it cuts off your windpipe and your circulation, and you can't breathe, and you're saying, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. It don't matter how much fentanyl you got in your system. It don't matter about, what counterfeit, bill you tried to, use in the store. No one deserves to die like this. Now, this is a man I'm talking about. Derek Chauvin is a man that took an oath to serve and honor the community, and they put him in the urban black community, where blacks is at, and they knew he was racist from past, allegedly racist, from past experiences and filings on him from the way he acted. But y'all go back and look at that picture. Put in George Floyd, Derek Chauvin's knee on neck, in the Google, say you want a picture of it, and just look how he had his hands in his pocket, and he's looking like he had no compassion, no empathy for this human being that he took an oath to serve and honor. Now, dude they sent him to a medium security in the feds. When he get into medium security in the feds, soon as he got there, the way it work is the laundry people get a list of everybody that's coming, they size and all of that, and so when they come, that way they get their bedrolls. They're not even their size. They get their bedrolls ready. So if it's 30 people coming on a bus, they tell them you got 30 people. Here's the list. Make sure you got a bedroll for each person. We gonna be going after 5 o'clock. The bus ain't coming till 8, 9 o'clock. So just make sure that the bedrolls is up there in our R&D. That's receiving the discharges, so when they come in, they could go ahead and, have their bedroll to sleep on. And in the morning, they'll come to laundry, and we'll get their size, and we give them their underwear, T-shirts, socks, and prison uniform, right? So they knew he was coming. So whatever happened, dude was targeting him, as they said in the report. So that means that he knew he wanted to hit dude up. But he didn't do it on Thanksgiving. He waited till after Thanksgiving, and approximately 12:30 in p.m. in the afternoon out in Arizona. So that means that chow was going on, and they was getting ready to call them back in the unit to start the first afternoon rec period. And that's when dude hit him up right after chow. I don't even have to be there to know that. You know what I mean? But that's how that works. So now he sits there. So George Chauvin said that he learned that technique to put his foot on this man's neck. I'm not even going to stipulate and keep emphasizing black man, even though that's why he did it. Allegedly, he put his knee on this man's neck. He said he learned it, from the maximal restraint technique, code 5-316. You know what I mean? They even got a code for how they taught them to treat the civilians as animals by putting their knee on their neck to restrain them. And they call it maximal. They know max lets you know right there. They know that could lead to deadly consequences. But they have this in the police handbook. That's what Chauvin is saying that he's trying to go back to court on, and he's also trying to get back to court saying that it wasn't the knee on the neck that killed him, so he's going to say with the fentanyl level. But if you hold a person down and they can't breathe and they already got drugs in the system, and all the blood is going to rush to their head, and they're going to get anxiety, and, they're going to shut out. You know what I mean? Because police done choke me out, too. So I tell you about that if you want to hear about it. I done been through all, hitting the head with a lock, boop. And like I always say, round of applause to dude that hit me in the head with the lock. Round of applause. Round of applause. Relax, man. Relax, man. Relax. Yeah, we know he get his props. Cause when you violate, you get yours. You get yours, and it's all a part of the deal. That's why I like that, honeycomb, brazy, and finesse 2 times joint. I'm really disappointed in, finesse, because this man put you on and held you down when you was on the inside. So he thinking he in a partnership with you. So, to Brazy, in his mind, the way we think, it's like, he did the worst thing next to treason. Like, you know what I mean? He turned out to be, trash. Because if a man look out for you, you look out for them when you get out. And it's not that you obligated, it's self-obligation because of your loyalty, honor, morals, and principles, that you want the same thing for yourself that you want for your comrade. But this man didn't give him anything. But that's how that works, you know? Now, that maximum restraint technique, that was in place from May 2002 all the way until April 2018, around, you know, is when that was in place the last time it was revised. So this was a technique that was around for almost 2 decades out there in Minnesota, that maximal restraint technique. You know, so that's what he going back on. So, you know, he trying to get back on, trying to say that, you know, Chauvin trying to say that, you know, I did what was told. I followed, you know, code 5-316 of the maximum restraint technique. So therefore, I'm not responsible. Plus, Floyd had, you know, 11 point whatever, you know, on the level of the Richter scale of fentanyl in his system. So that could have killed him. So it wasn't just that. Because they got a joint. Because I like to ride. I want to feel like teaching y'all today. Let's ride. I feel like teaching you on today. You had a joint, right? It was a case that came out. I forgot the name of, you know, I did legal work in a prison. There was a case that came out that said that, okay, it was one of my homeboys. I think it was up from Boston or somewhere up that way, right? Upstate New York. But he was up there and his man had a little, you know, European girl with him. That means white girl, but you know, the rat bastards and flip-flop wearing and public trolls, they try and nitpick if I should say, you know, European or white, but it's all right to say black. You know what I mean? Well, you know, or African, but you can't say white or European. That's how the trolls work, just so y'all understand. So now he sits there and it was a little European girl that his man had that was getting high with him all day. The girl was smoking weed, you know, she was popping pills, she was shooting dope, she was sniffing coke, you know, she was smoking hashish, she was drinking, you know what I mean? And, you know, just like the, you know, we talked about the other day with Diddy and Aaron Hall joint, you know what I mean? You know, it was like, it ain't no fun if the homie can't get none, so they was sharing her. So my man wanted to get some more drugs, so he go see my man to go get some dope. So when he go get the dope, the female sat there and, you know, wanted to get high. So he gets the girl high, and then the girl ODs. When she ODs, they charge him with the death because she OD'd. So now he get locked up, but then when he went back on appeal, and he fought it saying that, how do you know that it was the heroin alone that killed this young lady? It could have been the coke, the hash, the pills, you know what I mean? It could have been anything that killed her, you know, accumulated with, you know, the heroin. It don't mean that it was just the heroin that I gave her that killed her. Supreme Court sided with him that the toxicologists, whatever they call it, toxicologists couldn't figure out, you know, which specific drug killed her. So they overturned his case because it could have been any one of the other number of drugs that she took. So that's what Chauvin is trying to go back on, trying to say that Floyd had, you know, the maximum amount of heroin in his system, so he could have just had an OD. You know what I mean? And it wasn't his neck that, you know, induced the OD. You know what I mean? So that's where we're going with that. See how y'all learn things here, Unique Mecca Audio, the Cash App. You already know what it is. Unique Mecca Hall. Make sure you hit the logo and it say it was created in 2020. Follow me on Instagram and make sure you like and subscribe this video. So now, like I said, George Floyd's last words was, you know, I can't breathe. That man kept his hands in his pocket, looking up in the air like, I don't care. You know? I mean, sad but true. Welcome to, you know, the justice system, you know? But like I said, you know, it was day after Thanksgiving that he got stabbed, even though he was targeted. So that means that they could have hit him on Thanksgiving, but we don't do things like that on the holidays. We respect each other so that everybody can see their families and do their thing in prison. So when you say there's no honor amongst thieves, you dead wrong, you don't understand, and you really just a rat bastard. You know what I mean? Trying to justify what you telling by saying there's no honor among thieves. No, say I honor nothing with a thief or with anyone. I just worry about myself, and we good. You know what I mean? So that's where we at. So the staff performed life-saving measures, you know, on Chauvin before they, you know, rushed him to the hospital. When they say, you know, life-saving measures, and then they took him to the hospital, 9 times out of 10, that mean they airlifted him. You know what I mean? They had to take him by airplane because if they would have tried to drive with traffic, the hospital might not be close enough to a local hospital, whatever, so they take you in the air to hurry up and get you there because you're having life-threatening illnesses. Now, I told you I was going to tell you what a free pick is. A free pick is this. You go to one of these you go to a jail and you don't want to be there. Like Tucson, that's where they got Casanova at. You know what I mean? The FCI, is, like a dropout yard for high profile rats, things like that. People like this brother, I ain't gonna say this brother, like that man, or I'm gonna just say white dude. I just feel comfortable even calling him a man. The dude that killed George Floyd, Derek Chauvin. Now, they sent him to the medium because that's where they put the police. They figure they safe. He wanted to get out of the solitary confinement that they had him in over there in the state jail, 23-1. So he settled a plea agreement, said, yo, just send me to the feds and I'll drop my case. They sent him to the feds. He think it's going to be sweet because he's going to a medium, but they got killers in the medium too. I talked to killers that got life sentences that been now 30 years, that's in the low security prison. They never did that when I was in there, but they started doing that when all the gangbangers started coming to jail. And they were sending them to mediums and lows, and they was acting up because they didn't know how good and blessed they had it to be in a medium and a low. Like, it took me over 20 years to finally get to a medium, for a minute, and then they sent my black butt back to the feds. But that's how that worked. So don't think when you hear medium that it's really a medium security prison, because dudes work their way down from maximum security prison all the way down to medium security prisons and low prisons now. So that's what happened with that. So don't get it twisted. They got a free pick. So you on the compound and you want to leave the compound. So if you want to leave the compound, we have what we call a free pick. You just pick somebody that you feel is not going to fight back, is not going to do nothing, or there's not going to be no repercussions, and you just take off on them. Boo! So you take off on them, you get to swinging and fighting, police grab you and they transfer you. The quickest way to get transferred is to touch a dude like Derek Chauvin, somebody that's a high-profile prisoner, because they on what they call CIM. You know what I mean? That stands for Central Inmate Monitoring. That's what they had me on. I might show you my papers for that. Central Inmate Monitoring is where they can't not move you from one jail to another, or, unless they notify Washington, D.C. And if they move you from one cell to another, they still have to notify Washington, D.C., so D.C. know where you at all times. That's Central Inmate Monitoring. See how y'all get the game? So now, with the Central Inmate Monitoring, they had me on that. And, I'm going to give you another one because I like to ride, It's Thanksgiving weekend. I feel like riding. I was in Allenwood. They said I had too much dope on the compound. They wanted to get me out of the compound to slow down the dope influx on the compound, for you rat bastards, this was back in 99, 2001. So now they wanted to get me out of there. So they transferred me out to, where the hell is that? They transferred me out to Lompoc, California, right? But when they transferred me to Lompoc, they picked me up. They called me to the lieutenant's office at 4 o'clock that afternoon. I went to the lieutenant's office. As soon as I got in there, they said, lock him up. They put me in the shoe. I'm like, what am I being locked up for? They said, oh, you getting off our compound. You know what I mean? So I'm like, yeah, whatever. I know they can't move me because I'm a Sims inmate, Central Inmate Monitoring. You can't move me overnight like that. Sure enough, 3 o'clock in the morning, they came, woke me up, and took my black ass over to the airlift in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and was putting me on a big 757 with a bunch of other, kingpins and killers and everything else to send me to Oklahoma for holdover to get out to California. You know what I mean? So let me turn the other light on. I want y'all to see my, my complexion, because I've been doing what I got to do, drinking my water and working out again. But so they send me out there, and when they take me to the thing, they go to take me on the plane, and as soon as the dude saw my name, there was a red flag, and he said, oh, no, you can't bring him on here. And he said, no, we have the papers to transfer him from the warden. They said, nah, the warden can't transfer, Unique. You know what I mean? Unless he goes through Washington, D.C., and we get clearance and a letter from D.C. that says that Unique is allowed to get on our plane to go to Oklahoma to get to California. That's how high of a security they had me under. So they had to take me back to the jail, contact Washington, and then tell Washington about my, my alleged drug activities on the compound, and, I'm flooding the compound, and da-da-da-da. and then they shot me out west. You know, it took them about a week to get that confirmation. So it's the same thing with David Chauvin. When they sent him to the joint, you better believe Washington knew they was moving him, and they couldn't even take him to the hospital without Washington giving him the green light to take him to the hospital. That's how serious this is with the central inmate monitoring. But that's a free pick. Let's say somebody take off on me, boop, they're gonna automatically move him off the compound. You understand what I'm saying? And try and keep me on the compound because they already know that I'm there, I'm high profile, and, you know, they already got a line on watching me. So now when you got a dude like David Chauvin and he get on the compound, you want to leave the compound, you have a free pick, boop, or you just see a dude walking out of the compound and you swing on him, boop, that ain't going to get you transferred off the compound. But if you swing on that dude in the mess hall, in the chow hall, if you have any fight in the chow hall in any federal prison, you better believe it's a 9 times out of 10 chance that you will be transferred to another jail because you just put all the staff life in danger by fighting in the kitchen that could have turned into a riot or brawl, or one of these high-powered staff, the warden, the assistant warden, you know, the captain, you know, the lieutenant, you know, all of them in there, you just put all their life in danger. So if you're trying to get a free pick, not telling y'all what to do, but just letting y'all know how going on the inside, you know, because the rat bastards is going to try and sit there and play the games with the trolls, and I ain't got time for it. And we ain't going to forget them flip-flop wearing in public clowns, man. Definitely gunshots. All right? So that's where we at. So free pick is where you just take off on somebody because you're trying to get out. So you just pick anybody that you feel is not going to get, you know, not going to fight you back, or you could definitely whoop. You know what I mean? So that's a free pick. See, I give y'all the game. I've been on here long enough. I just wanted to let y'all know what time it is. And I appreciate y'all. Happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your family, friends, because I know I surely enjoyed mine. I know it's over tomorrow, but, you know, I still want to tell it to you again. I've been really enjoying my freedom. I had my first Thanksgiving with my mother living with me, you know, in decades. So I'm having a wonderful Thanksgiving, so that's why I kind of been sporadic on here. Haven't really been on here. I've been spending time with my mother and my grandchildren, you know what I mean? And, you know, it is what it is, man, you know. And I just want to let y'all know, man, I thank y'all. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this video, hit the bell to this video, and just keep it moving because we out of here. All right?
Cheers, cheers, toast the crime, toast the crime, the crime, the crime, the crime.
Fresh out the can of 26, yeah. Heat back on the strip, getting back in the mix. Yeah. What he mentions a gift. You stand up 10 toes down, and I suggest you pay attention to this. Real. Take a little gully posse and put it in Harlem. He cut from the bottom, came up from the bottom. Drop the book, you should go and get it. The Instagram page and the YouTube, you could go and visit. Yeah. Then you could consider yourself LinkedIn. Real. Sit front row and get Jews from a kingpin. How he went through it, so you ain't gotta go do it. To not pay attention would be stupid. Talking about a man that probably put your grandfather on. Probably the reason that him and your grams got along. A man that generated millions on the block, did his time, never squilling to the cops, Mecca audio. Get it live like 2 G's in the 90s. Drop top beamer so shiny. I let shorty go, she was whining. Treat her like my past, she behind me. Spin a couple bands on the Dapper Dan. Yui back again, getting green like a Packers fan. No cap, it's a raw in Uptown. They be horn Uptown, Dominican bust downs. Now we on the positive, Yui got a lot to give. Now he trying to stop the kids from being inoperative. So take heed, homie, lend an ear. He started in Uptown, he gon' finish dead. But now it ain't about selling drugs, buying cars. It's about buying property to make the community ours. So we can give back to the youth them, cause they the truth them. And bless up